we had talked about cytoplasmic inheritance, and in the cytoplasmic inheritance we further talked about what? We further had talked about the maternal inheritance, right? Maternal inheritance, and then we talked about the organelle inheritance, right? And I told you that two organelles which are very important, okay? The two organelles which are very important as far as the organelle inheritance is concerned are the what? The chloroplast, that is the plastids, as well as the mitochondria. So I can write here the chloroplast, okay, and along with the chloroplast, okay, along with the chloroplast, what I can write is the mitochondria of very much importance. Okay, I was trying something. I was trying to be a hero, but actually didn't turn out to be. So this is the mitochondria which we can talk about, right? These two organelles, the chloroplast and the mitochondria, play a very important role when we talk about the cytoplasmic inheritance, because they have their own DNA, and that is why these two organelles also are called the semi-autonomous organelles. That is, they have the capability on their own to survive, and hence called the semi-autonomous organelles. Yes, coming about the maternal inheritance, what we said, that in case of maternal inheritance, the cytoplasm of the egg is more, right? So the cytoplasm, what we can say is the cytoplasm of egg is more, and hence when we talk about the cytoplasm of the cytoplasmic inheritance, definitely since the cytoplasm of egg is more than that of the sperm, so the maternal dominance, the maternal inheritance is more, and this is what is the cytoplasmic inheritance. Friends, after that we started talking about the pedigree analysis. You remember? We started talking about the pedigree analysis, and what did we discuss here? We discussed here that even the human chromosomes, even the human inheritance is related to that of the Mendelian inheritance, right? Is that of the Mendelian inheritance, right? And so what do we see here in the Mendelian inheritance over here? What we see here in these conditions in the Mendelian inheritance is that the pedigree analysis, what we see here, this is basically used to describe the inheritance and study about the human inheritance, and what are the reasons we have discussed, but we have not written it down, which we will see in this session. Okay? So let us quickly write the things what we wrote last time and continue with the pedigree analysis. First of all, when we are talking about the pedigree analysis, what do we want to write down is as method of the study of the genetic human disorders. Okay, this is what? This is method of studying the human genetic. Okay, this is the method of studying the human genetic disorders. Right. Very important. Now, why do we follow? Why we need pedigree analysis? Why we need pedigree analysis. Okay? Why we need pedigree analysis in humans? Right. The human inheritance also follows the Mendelian inheritance. So what you can write, the human inheritance also follows the Mendelian inheritance, right? The Mendelian inheritance but the pedigree analysis is required essentially in these conditions, okay? But pedigree analysis is a must, right? But pedigree analysis is a must because number one, the crossover or the cross between the humans are controlled crosses, okay? The crosses in humans, are controlled, right? And secondly, the number of offsprings produced per cross is limited and not to that extent, okay? The number of offsprings in human cross are very limited, right? So the crosses in humans are controlled is one of the major factor why we need the pedigree analysis in humans. And the second one, the number of offsprings in the humans is very, very much limited in these conditions. And that is why we say that the human inheritance also follows the Mendelian inheritance, but still we need a pedigree analysis as the human, the cross in the humans is controlled, and secondly, the number of offsprings is limited. It's not that much as we see in the case of P, as if we see in the case of other animals and insects. So here they have to be studied with the help of a family tree, a family diagram. Identify the inheritance pattern in the following picture. What is this? What is this? Okay. Before I tell you the solution of the first, let us see the second question, identify the mode of inheritance. Let us see the third question, identify the mode of inheritance. The fourth question, identify the mode of inheritance. Fifth question, identify the pattern of inheritance. Finally, we see something else. 5 questions from pedigree analysis. Yes. This is very, very, very important. The pedigree analysis is very important because there are maximum chances one question will be from this particular unit and it won't be easy. See, there are certain laws we have to remember. For example, for a trait to be dominant, it has to be affected in every generation. Like this is the first generation, the second generation, the third and the fourth. But we see here that in this generation the affected trait is absent, right? And similarly there are the other rules and regulations on the basis of which we will categorize each of them as whether the mode of inheritance is X-linked, as whether the mode of inheritance is autosomal, or the mode of inheritance is what? Dominant or recessive. Yes. So first of all, before starting this question, let me tell you what is this. I have already discussed this in my normal sessions of the chapter, that this is pedigree analysis, and why do we need to know about pedigree analysis. Okay, so let us see some 4-5 questions, let us see some basic facts about pedigree analysis, and then we can further talk about the question. So, this is pedigree analysis, and we will start with we will first see what is pedigree analysis. The study of the inheritance of traits in humans is called as pedigree analysis. It's very simple. So what it is? The study of traits, the study of inheritance pattern of traits, of inheritance pattern of traits in humans is called as pedigree analysis. The study of inheritance pattern of traits in humans is called as pedigree analysis, and this is what we mean by the term pedigree analysis. What else? So why do we need to study human traits in such a systematic manner? Why do we need this? Come back, we'll see a few lines about this. Why we need pedigree analysis. The first reason, the crosses in the human beings, are controlled, right? The crosses in the human beings are controlled. And what about the next? The crosses in the human beings are controlled, and secondly, what we will see that here the number of offspring produced won't be too many. Okay, the number of offsprings produced, won't be too many. Okay, so the crosses in the human beings are controlled. We cannot have any cross with anyone. It is a controlled cross, and the number of offsprings produced won't be too many, either 2, 3, 4 maximum, and that cannot extend beyond the limits. And that is why we need the pedigree analysis for humans. Now, before we start with the question, one small last thing what we should know is about the symbols, which I have already told you, and I think you must be knowing it. Sorry. So what we should know is certain symbols. This is an unaffected male, right? This is an affected, sorry, if you shade this, this becomes what? Affected male. This is what? Unaffected female. Unaffected female. And what else? If we shade this again, this is an affected female. Okay, this is an affected female. Unaffected male, affected male, unaffected female, affected female. One more two things we have to see. This is what? Mating between the male and the female, right? Mating this is consanguineous marriage, that is mating between the mating, that is marriage between the relatives. Okay, this I can write as consanguineous marriage. Okay, and what else? One or two last symbols. Which I would like to give you is, say this is mating between a male and a female, and this produces so what we see here, that there is a mating between a normal female and an affected male. Okay, there is a mating between a normal female and an affected male, and this will produce three offsprings: a normal female, and an unaffected male, right? Say, for example, what is this condition? Here what we are seeing, that an affected female is being crossed with an unaffected male, and this will again produce three offsprings: unaffected female, affected female, and affected male. So this is what the condition we see here. So in the light of all this, now our homework is done. Now we know what is pedigree analysis. Now we know why do we do pedigree analysis, and what is the significance of it. Pedigree analysis basically, it helps us to know the disease in humans. For example, any condition which can be homozygous or heterozygous, dominant or recessive, autosomal or sex linked, we'll get to know. And if we know that, then definitely we can try, if we know that the fetus in the mother's womb is having a disease condition, then definitely what we can do is we can abort the child if the condition will be too, if the condition is not very good for the child. Okay, so let us now study the first question and let us see what will be the solution. Identify the inheritance pattern in the following picture. Okay. Now, I'll give you some rules based on which you will get to know what are the different conditions. Just looking at it, you can tell it. Rule number 1. If the affected trait appears in every generation, okay, if the affected trait appears in every generation, then it's a dominant condition, otherwise it's a recessive condition. Okay. So I'll write this here. Rule number 1. If the affected trait or character appears in every generation, okay, appears in every generation, okay, then it is a dominant condition. Then it is a dominant condition. Right. What is the second one? If the affected trait or character appears in every generation, then it is a dominant condition. Otherwise it will be recessive. Otherwise it will be recessive. Let us see, in the light of this statement or rule number 1 which I have given you, I mean which we are formulating on our own, okay, nothing such rule given as such by Mendel or anyone. It is some rules we are formulating, and based on that we will try to classify all the questions based on the pedigree analysis. So we will see. So which is the first generation? This is the first generation, right? The first generation. This is the second generation. This is the third generation. And this will be the fourth generation.